operate on the juncture that it's going to be kept. So what I would do was to make it a bit more interesting. Either the final four from the previous Challenge Cup or playoff weekend would automatically get a bye to the quarterfinal stage, and then the remaining 8 teams, they would play each other in the first 2 weekends of their season, and they would play say Edinburgh plays Dundee, and it's a series of 4 games. And if it happens to be like it's a 2-2 split, so Edinburgh wins 2 games and Dundee wins 2 games, then that final game will go to overtime, then penalty shots, and then the victor of each random tie will join the other 4 teams to form a quarterfinals. So it's 2-legged quarterfinals, and then that way you can sweep it up in September, October, and then you can play the final during mid to late November in a neutral venue.
I mean, the idea, I think it was Jennifer's idea when we were talking about it in the group, about having the Challenge Cup with 4 groups of 3 and completely randomly drawing it without, different shaped balls in a Marks and Spencer's bag. You could have, the problem with that is the travel, but for fans it would be exciting because every year you'd have somebody different, and every year, you could have a group with Nottingham and Sheffield in it, you could have a group, with Braehead and Fife in it. But you could have somebody completely different. Braehead could end up in a group with Guildford and Milton Keynes, so you're seeing a different team again. But just the fact that it's different every year, and the fact that if it's only 3 teams in a group, you're only playing 4 games.
If you're going to do that, though, you would probably need to draw it at the playoff finals weekend for when it comes to the fixture meeting.
Yeah, but I think that's something. I mean, if you were doing, just say, for example, you weren't doing it at the playoff final and you were doing it on a YouTube or I don't think Periscope can hold that many viewers, but think how many people would actually look in to see who their team's getting.
And you could get a celebrity to do it.
You could get Rod Stewart to do it. You said, didn't you?
Get Rod Stewart to do it. He's got experience.
His next trip to Braehead. There's so many. I think there's so many things out there, but for me, this is an opportunity to keep the parity and try and do something to make the teams have all got a chance to play for something. To me, if you just go down playing everybody the same number of times, at the moment, you're going to get a pretty predictable top 4. It's not always going to be like that, but the beauty of doing it that way is if things change, then you can change the conferences. The geographical split and all that, if you have the big 4, they're not going to complain. They're already playing that anyway, to the extent. I mean, Coventry, Guildford, Milton Keynes aren't going to complain too much. Manchester are already travelling to Scotland every week. I don't think the difference in their travel, being in a group with Coventry, Guildford and Milton Keynes, would be that great. But they certainly have been in a more competitive environment. And obviously we've got the Scottish thing. But I think it's just, for me, a chance to sort of dope it a wee bit and give everybody something to play for and not have 4 or 5 teams at the bottom of the league every year losing fans and hemorrhaging money, and keeping everything intact and giving everybody in a good year a chance to actually achieve something. The beauty of the North American system with the draft and everything else is something we just can't replicate it. So at the moment, it's the only way I can see of trying to level the playing field. And I know you hate it, Graham. I know you hate the conferences.
Well, no. In fairness, hang on. I'm not quite that narrow-minded, because at the end of the day, my opinion about the conference systems are based on what it is just now, what it's become over the 5 years it's been in existence, what it means for the club, and the simple fact is, nothing has happened to change my mind about the conferences since the day it was announced. Nobody's managed to change my mind. I'll change my mind quite happily. I'm not too proud if that's going to happen. If we're going to be changing things to such an extent with the introduction of 2 new teams, I'm quite happy to say, well, okay, hang on a minute. Yes, in an ideal world, you want to play everybody the same number of times. I accept your argument about the fact that we are trying to get some degree of parity. I will always have a problem with a situation that perhaps gives teams, and I won't mention them, but it's obvious who they are, gives them a comfort zone that means that they still don't have to try hard enough to bring fans in, because those clubs are always going to struggle because of the way that they're run at this moment in time. But I accept the fact that we'd rather have them in the league than not. I mean, I don't particularly want anybody to go bust and fall away. So that being the case, I'm fine with that. I like the idea of more variety of who we see, and your system would give us that to a certain extent, so I'm okay with that. If we ran with 2 times 6, I'm quite happy with Belfast coming into our conference because that's a game changer for us as a club. Because then, okay, accepted that we don't have their budget, but it's not going to be a Gardner Conference win almost guaranteed every season. We are going to really have to change as a club, potentially.
We'd have to really go, especially if we got Sheffield as well. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if we get Belfast and Sheffield in our conference, we'll be lucky to win a conference title again. Lucky.
Of course, absolutely.
There might be a year where there has been years when we've been better than Belfast. We've had 1 year, I think, we've been better than Belfast, and I don't remember a year we've been better than Sheffield.
I don't see the Sheffield thing at all. I see Belfast coming into our conference. I don't see the Sheffield thing at all.
But then if you're Belfast, you're not going to want to do that, though, are you?
No, absolutely not. And again, I'll go absolutely not. And the thing is, Belfast, I'm generalising here, but I think I've had the kind of impression that Belfast have been quite happy to acknowledge the fact, and there was a lot of discussion about it. A View from the Bridge guys had talked about it before, about, oh yeah, if it happens, then we would go into the Gardner Conference. I think now the reality is that might actually happen. All of a sudden, people are thinking, no, I don't think we do want that. I spoke to 2 Belfast fans when they were here a couple of weeks ago, just for having a very, very quick chat out in the foyer about what might come for next season. And those guys were dead set against Belfast coming into the Gardner. Why? Because they don't want to lose the number of big games that they get at the moment. And there's a reality behind that as well, is because obviously at that big arena in Belfast, they want to maximise their bums on seats, and they won't get that if they're playing the likes of, 1 or 2 of the Scottish teams more often. So,
they just need to start giving away more subways and they'll get the bums on the seat.
But all I'm saying is the dialogue changes all of a sudden. It goes from, yeah, okay, we wouldn't mind that, but that's only while the system is as it is. As I say, the minute reality comes in, now the tune changes. So there'll be a lot, as Jen said, there'll be a lot of resistance from Belfast, I think, to that.
I mean, we've been told that Gareth and Andy and Braehead essentially are all for the conference system in terms of the way it's structured just now for getting the 2 new teams. But that's because the attendances are slightly better. Like, obviously, Fife is our most attended average game. This year, Fife, we've got 3,382 average, which is the highest. Belfast isn't the draw most people think it is. I mean, Belfast is only the 7th on the list for our average attendance this year at 2,748. It's not, I can understand why we make more. When you look at that difference, is over 600 between Fife and Belfast. So you're getting 600 more people through the door playing Fife than you do Belfast. So you can understand where the money men want that game to be around more often. Now, I agree with you, Graham. You get fixture fatigue. It's like, you're playing somebody too much. Sometimes we can see a conference team 10 times a year, 5 home and 5 away if the Challenge Cups are standalone. That does get tedious. And obviously, what I was saying about that, under the 3-1 that I'm proposing, you'd actually have more non-conference games. But if you look at the kind of average attendances, Belfast isn't up there for us at all for some reason. Well, I know our fans like the away trip to Belfast, but as a club, we're not doing anything more out of it. It's from a competitive edge. But then you look at it this year, we haven't beaten Belfast once this year.
No, exactly, but that reflects the kind of season that we've had. It also, your earlier point, also reflects the fact that Belfast and Braehead is a rivalry that's never managed to get off the ground properly, because of the conference system. It's always been one of my many bugbears about the fact that there's a natural rivalry to me that just has never been given the room to breathe because of the conference system. For me, I'd much rather that our real big rivalry was against a team that regularly challenges for the league title, rather than Fife, who haven't won a conference. You're not going to have a rivalry,
Graham, if you get pumped 6 times a year.
Well, who says we're going to get pumped?
Maybe we are at the moment.
At the moment. We might be better next season.
We've had plenty of good example.
But we've had plenty of seasons where we've been competitive against Belfast.
I think we've had 1 winning season, though, and what's that?
Well, I don't have the figures in front of me, but I can recall plenty of... Right, okay,
I'm always getting the figures in front of me.
But I can recall plenty of good games against Belfast, exciting games, close games. So, what I'm saying is that should be our big rivalry. If we want to progress as a club, and okay, we don't have the budget, but if our ambition is going to match the expectations, then we need to have that as the thing that we are aspiring to. Not Fife, we have to try and aspire to be more than that. Fife fans that I've spoken to agree because they want the same for their club. They want to aspire to bigger and better things. As I say, but for me, it's always about how do we push this club forward? How do we change the attitude? And I don't want to be too specific here, but how do we change the potential attitude that this is great, fans are coming in, job done, we're sorted, everything's fine, everybody keeps their jobs, everybody's happy. That's such a dangerous mentality to fall into. We should be striving to overachieve all the time. And I accept the fact that that is just simply not how the world works. But that doesn't mean that you don't stop striving for it. And we are limited. I know fans who are quite happy as long as we pump Fife just about every game. My expectations and my horizons, with all due respect to them, are far broader than that. I want a lot more than that for the club that I support, and I think most other fans do as well.
I'm not disagreeing you. Yeah, I think what you're talking about, yeah, we do want to have ambitions. But what about if our ambitions is to displace somebody out the big conference, that we have to join the big conference so that it's financially doped? Is that not where your ambition would lie? In that system, if that, I mean, there's always a chance that in 2 or 3 years we might have a London team, we might have another team joining, we have a 14 team. You know, at the moment, if things are staying the way they are, to me the ambition would be, yeah, maybe if down the line, I don't know Cardiff's situation, maybe they'll have to start paying for their ice time and they won't be as competitive, and maybe Braehead will have a new arena, we'll have more fans through the door. Then we're thinking, my ambition is, displace Cardiff out of that league, get us into the big league, we'll play with the 3 big arena teams, and that's where the system to me is flexible. At the moment, we are not competitive against Belfast or Sheffield. And okay, a conference title doesn't mean a league title, but it's something to play for every year. And again, if it's slightly balanced for the 2 other conferences not having as many games against the big boys, and the big boys maybe taking points off against each other, it does give somebody a chance to make a run through. Keeps everybody a bit more tight in the league standings, but it's also adaptable for the future, as you say. Yeah, we want to be in an ideal world, competing with the Sheffields, Nottingham's, Belfast, and at the moment Cardiff's.
Okay, listen, I can't argue with you, and I'm not going to argue with you. All I'm saying is that I just think that depending on what conference system we end up with for next season, the potential is that it's going to continue to not help us, if that makes sense. I'm okay with your 3 conference idea. I'm okay with it. I get it. And it's not, as you say, it's not the league. We've still got the league thing to think about. Nobody that I know of, particularly nowadays, is thinking about conference titles. We could potentially win one tonight and it'll be great and we'll have a celebration if we get it. And that's fine. But, I think most people know that the picture is bigger than that nowadays.
I think the club stagnated this year, but that's another programme. Do you think the club would have grown to where it is just now if we were constantly being mediocre, finishing 5th, 6th in the league, with just a league system the way it was when we first started?
Again, I think a lot of the growth for the clan has been organic rather than just because of other things happening.
I think it would have grown, but I think it was aided by particularly that run when we had that top of the league thing, we had the Champions Hockey League the year after it. All that, yeah, I think it's been organic. I think this, being the 7th year, has been the hardest year because we haven't had that. We haven't been good enough to compete with Earhart's. And it might be for all the reasons you're saying, but I don't think we would have got quite as big a growth without that challenge on the league that year. And all I'm trying to do with the conferences being slightly tilted is give the Coventrys a chance to have that again. The Guildfords, who will be competitive, a chance to have that. The Fifes in a good year, the Braeheads in a good year. Anybody from the other conference in a good year to have the sort of run that we had and mix it up with the big guys again. But I still stand by my point. You're right, the clan have had an organic growth, which I think naturally occurred just because there's a growing interest in hockey in the west of Scotland. But without that added run to the league in the Champions Hockey League, I think it wouldn't have been as big as it was. The growth wouldn't have been as rapid. This, for what I can see, my figures show that this will be the first year the attendances will likely actually fall on average this year, is because we haven't had that last bit. And the conference is right, it's not enough of an excitement, and it has kind of fizzled out because the likelihood is we'll win the conference over the next week or two. But the challenge for the league wasn't there. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying, Graham, that there may be a gap because of the conferences, but I don't think we'd have grown without it.